Alright, so I'm here today at Our Lady of Fatima Shrine in Lewiston, New York, and I kind of just came here today because I came here all the time when I was a kid. My auntie would take me here all the time, and I haven't been back here in a while. And the reason is anyone's guess. I'm not Roman Catholic anymore. I really don't identify as having any particular religion, but it's nice to come back here every now and then and just kind of look around because it's very serene. I'm gonna record a little bit of footage of just me walking around here, and while you're watching some of this footage, I'm just gonna kind of well, I'm gonna close the window first of all so no one can hear me rambling to myself, but I'm just gonna kind of talk about my history with the Roman Catholic Church, I suppose. Just my entire journey from being Roman Catholic to eventually ending up where I am now as, I suppose, a nun. Not like a nun sister but like a just having no religion. I suppose I'll just talk about that for a little while. So I was raised Roman Catholic. I was a very devout Roman Catholic from a very young age, and not of my parents pushing. Maybe a little bit. I mean, they made me go to church and all that when I was young, but from a very early age, definitely took a very... I was very spiritual about it, and I really can't understand why or explain why I was so devout at such an early age, but I really was, and it's kind of weird looking back on it now, just realizing how much of it just has nothing to do with the person that I am today. I mean, I'm sure it contributed to my growth as a person, but I look back on it with fondness, but it's just so not who I am today, which is really weird to think. But yeah, I took 10 years of religious education. I was baptized, I got my first communion, made my confirmation, basically went the whole 9 yards with it. And I suppose technically if you were to look in a record, it still says on all my records that I'm Catholic, that, I'm a member of St. Gregory the Great Catholic Church, and all that stuff, but I don't really identify as that anymore, and let me kind of explain the timeline. Up until, let's say, when I got to be in around 5th or 6th grade, I got really... or maybe I could go even earlier than that. Around like 3rd or 4th grade, I became afraid of hell. Like almost immediately once I found out what it was, I became afraid of hell, and it was an interesting kind of... It was interesting how I coped with that fear. I would pray all the time. My mother and my auntie were very into like the whole all the the incarnations of Mother Mary, most notably Our Lady of Fatima, just because of this shrine right here. We would always go to the shrine, and how they just believed in it so devoutly, and so I guess as an extension I did too. And it took over my life, I would say, for a while. I wore a scapular, a holy scapular, which essentially protects you from going to hell. I prayed a rosary, not the right way most likely, but I did. I prayed a rosary very often, and I would just pray for like hours. My nightly prayer would... I'll never forget, it consisted of, the typical, child's prayer before he goes to bed, the whole "now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep," that whole deal. And then I would say a Hail Mary, an Our Father, a Glory Be, an act of contrition, and then make up my own prayer after that. I don't remember the act of contrition. I just remember that I would say it. And I would just pray personally, just for all the things I was afraid of. That I didn't go to hell, that nobody that I knew went to hell, nobody that I knew would ever have to go to hell. And it was really just a very spiritual thing, but it was born out of a lot of fear, I think. A lot of fear that if I didn't do this, bad things were going to happen. So this continued, I'd say, for maybe the next 2 years, maybe, until I got into like sixth grade, and I really continued up until, I suppose, I did my confirmation, around the time that I completed my confirmation. I mean, I wasn't doing any of this crazy prayer stuff anymore, or I would just pray constantly without, and if that's you, if you're the type of person that prays constantly, I'm not trying to say you're crazy, everyone to each his own. But personally, for me, the prayer was a bit more, I guess, neurotic and sort of just born out of fear than out of, a general want to, be a follower of Christ, if that makes any sense. But anyway, this continued up until I made my confirmation. And around that time is when I kind of started to question my faith in the Catholic Church. It was certainly, I guess I just kind of started, because I was taking a humanities course in high school around that time, and I was, the next year after I made my confirmation, I took a humanities course in school, and that really opened up my eyes to just thinking for yourself. It was kind of my first introduction to just kind of free thought, thinking for yourself. So naturally, I started to question my faith. Why do we do the things that we do? What's the purpose? What, and just the general questions that are raised among thinking about these things. And that progressed until I decided that I was going to leave the Catholic Church and become non-denominational Christian. And that's exactly what I did. I'd say that took me about half a year to a year. And I eventually I didn't go to a different church or anything like that. I still went to church. Well, maybe not as much as I used to, but I pursued the answers on my own time. I read the Bible a lot more than I used to, and I just kind of decided to shed the denomination that I was born into and just be a sort of, I guess, essentially a born-again Christian, just on my own right. I started to question a lot of the things in my life, the recreational things I would do in my life. I was listening to a lot of heavier, I guess, a lot more negative, evil music. I mean, in the most basic sense. I mean, that's just how any given person would probably see it, from their own perspective, but not how I see it, obviously. Given the shirt that I'm wearing right now, this Sirens and Sailors shirt, but I digress. I actually almost didn't go to Warped Tour that year. I didn't do a lot of the things that I wanted to do that year. This is 2014, I believe, just because I don't know, there was no explanation for why it should happen in the Bible, and that was basically the rule book by which I led my entire life. And there was this website that I think it still exists called gotquestions.com or .org, that basically is a non-denominational born-again Christian website where I would go and find answers to basically everything. But I mean, I don't go to them anymore. I mean, some of their views on things are just absolutely ridiculous. But back then, I would like devoutly listen to this kind of stuff, and this continued, I would say, until maybe, I think I very quickly after that decided I just didn't need it in my life anymore. Religion was just kind of this force in my life that I didn't need anymore, and I decided to become atheist for a little while. For a very short while, I think I identified as atheist. And I'm talking maybe like a week or two. And I didn't stick with this atheist label just because atheists, I feel with atheism, I feel there's a very, very strong, how do I say this? There's a very strong need for proof that a God exists, like scientific evidence that exists, that a higher deity exists. And I don't necessarily need that. I don't presume to know I don't want to know. I mean, not, that's a lie. Obviously, I want to know, but I don't. I wouldn't necessarily. I don't. I think if you're looking for scientific evidence that a deity exists, I think you're doing it wrong. I mean, it's how, people who are more, I guess, rudimentary and mathematical, a bit more logically brained, how they sort of, tackle the concept of God. Some people are spiritual, some people aren't. So I feel that's just how some people do it, and a lot of them end up becoming atheists. Me, I don't need that proof. I'm still a spiritual person in my own right. I just don't call that spiritual thing God or Jesus anymore. It's just my own spirituality, and I don't really give it a name or an identity. It just exists. So yeah, I guess that takes me to where I am right now. I don't regret any of the time that I spent, being a Catholic or a Christian. It very much made me who I am today. And yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. If you have any more questions about my experience with my religion and my spirituality, don't be afraid to ask me a question in the comments. I'll definitely give it an answer. I've been talking in the car for a while and I'm sweating my ass off, and I'm gonna get out of this car soon and actually film the footage that you just watched. Have a great day, guys.